That's all the violent crimes that happened in the past, let's say, week and a half or so. I mean, anti-gun laws ain't gonna stop crazy, man. You know, you're gonna have people with mental health conditions or people who have ulterior motives who set out to do crimes. That's going to happen. But what anti-gun laws will stop is unnecessary killings, like killings that wouldn't necessarily happen, except for the fact that you got a firearm, access to a firearm that's close by, right? Because we know, like I know from where I'm from, 90% of altercations will not wind up in somebody going to jail for the rest of their life and somebody going in the ground for the rest of their life if you can buy a few seconds, right? If that person wasn't able to have a gun on them at that moment in time and say they got into an argument or a fight or whatever the altercation was, by the time those two parties leave, it is a more or less likely chance that they're going to get a gun and come back and then do something. And also the fact that, you know, people who commit suicide, right? A lot of people who commit suicide and survive never try to commit suicide again. But those who commit suicide by gun, like headshot, don't get a chance to have that luxury. So it won't prevent everything, but it will prevent some things. So there needs to be gun laws in place, and we're going to cover a story about that because they're doing some gun laws right now. You know, that's what the Democrats are always pushing for. So they about to try to drastically do some more gun laws. Now, I'm not in the camp of nobody should be able to have a gun, but we do need to find a way to keep them out of people's hands like this, right? We do need to find a way to keep. So I don't know what I mean, at this point, I don't know what the answer is. The gun, it's so many guns now at this point. It's a huge problem, and it's going to be hell to try to fix, right? It's kind of like the worms already out of the can. It says one legal gun carrier could have ended that slaughter of 10 people. Yeah, or one legal gun carrier could have just added to it, right? A lot of times legal gun carriers and people that got guns just become a part of the problem. They don't stop. They usually wind up killing extra people, and then some bullshit wind up happening to them, story after story, right? When you have people taking the law into their own hands and thinking they're going to pull out their guns like the Wild Wild West, is usually they ass wind up killing some damn body, right? So that ain't going to be the answer, because you think if you have a gun that if somebody has a gun, every person that owns a gun is going to be able to handle a situation the same. No, that don't mean. Just because you got a gun don't mean that you train for if somebody walk into the goddamn store with an AR-15 and start blasting every damn body. That don't mean just because you got a gun that you're going to be able to do. You might wind up getting your monkey ass killed. Your gun might become an extra weapon. So I don't agree with that. Like, just because pedestrians have guns don't mean there's plenty times and plenty instances where people have had guns where it happens and it only adds to the fuel to the fire. Look what happened in the Kenosha shooting with Kyle Rittenhouse. That happened recently. The Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 people, shot one in the head, and the person before the altercation started also had a gun and didn't stop shit. The person with a gun was trying to run and he got shot, right? So if you used to get everybody in the street just start to open fire because, oh, well, they start shooting. This is why vigilantism is against the law. If you're not trained, just because you got a gun don't mean you train with that gun, don't mean you got proper, know how to, don't even mean you know how to use the gun properly. Plenty of people got guns and don't have no training. Period with the gun, right? Don't know how to shoot it properly, can't ration out different situations. If you in a damn grocery store and you a pedestrian, you had a gun, I wouldn't even necessarily say, and there's no telling that if nobody in that situation that was in the store didn't have a gun. I'm just saying, I don't see, everybody having a gun ain't going to, 2 guns on the one gun's already the damn problem. Adding more multiple guns from different sources ain't going, that's what they say about the school shootings, right? Maybe the teacher should have a gun. No, the teacher have a gun don't necessarily mean the teacher's trained or going to have the best decision making. And now you put the guns in teacher hands and they get to decide when to shoot or not to damn shoot. And it could be a situation that unfolded that you didn't need to shoot and kill any kids. So the problem when you give people with guns is that you give them ultimate authority, meaning you give them authority over life and death. And that really ain't an authority anyone should have. Right? That really ain't an authority that anyone should have. So I don't subscribe to that. Adding more guns into the equation will fix it. If the gun that's if guns that are in the equation is already the problem, you can add as many more people with guns into the equation. Don't mean it just means then you got a shootout, right? Instead of 10 people dead, maybe 20, 30, 40 people could die. Right, because then what? Now you have two people in the goddamn grocery store, and you got a major shootout. So my point being is that don't mean necessarily that is going to accomplish to stop anything. In some instances it could, but I would say in most instances it wouldn't, because again, most people ain't even trained properly, and even if you are trained properly with a gun, don't mean that you're trained properly for certain situations. Life is situational, so you could be a hell of a marksman, great with firearms, but you're not trained to handle certain high pressure situations, and it still can go sideways. So yeah, if you don't have the proper training, I don't feel comfortable giving people guns and letting them make judgment calls, because most people have bad goddamn judgment. Right? I don't feel comfortable giving people. Me and my kids got to walk around. I got two little ones, and people have the ability to have judgment, make their own judgment calls of what they should do with weapons that we have created that can destroy people. When I know that most of the people I run into in my life, and it's not this because even I have bad judgment sometimes, because I'm a flawed individual. I'm human. Right? Most of the human beings I run into throughout life at some point has bad judgment, and I don't think that my children, my life, or anybody else's life should be in the hand of anyone else's judgment. N says, hold on, let me see. Let me go back up in the chat. Here we go. She said, dude, you can get a pistol on the street now easier than you can at a pawn shop. Gun-free zones are the most dangerous places to be. I don't believe that. My house is a gun-free zone. It's pretty safe, bro. You would have to assume. See, this is the thing about people, the gun rights people, and the disagreement I have with them. You have to assume that there's a way less likely chance that some crazy shit is gonna happen than it is gonna happen. People go to supermarkets every day. Billions of people go shopping, and then you have this one incident that happened, and then gun rights people want to take the one incident and say, see, that's why we need to have guns. And again, the gun is the thing that caused the problem in the first damn place. And again, even if you had a bullshit pistol and a gun, and the other person got two fully automatic AR-15s, it's a good chance that you just gonna add to the complications or get your own monkey ass killed. So again, gun-free zones ain't the safest place to be. What do you mean? Most of the crimes that happen aren't in gun-free zones, because there's not many gun-free zones in the country. Right. I'm gonna tell you, school is a gun-free zone. There is less killings by far that happens in schools than happens anywhere else in our society. So that's the opposite of the truth. Right? Schools are a gun-free zone. There are way less killings in any school environment compared to the rest of the country, like out in the goddamn streets. So that doesn't make any sense. There's just one small piece of data that I could throw out there. Right? There's way less killings in any school. Of course, when school, that's why we're so shocked when it happens, right? When somebody dies or there's a mass shooting at a school, a kid gets shot or there's an active shooter. That's why it's such a big story, because it's not something that always happens, because it's a gun-free zone and there's really no guns supposed to be on campus. So it's a surprise when somebody gets shot, rather than the streets where there is no gun-free zones and people get shot and die all the goddamn time. So I would say that if you want to do if you want to see if that's true, to put it to a test, right, you would just use schools, because we know that schools are gun-free zones, and there's way less killings in schools than there is in the rest of society, the rest of our country. Schools are the safest place. The gun-free zone is the safest place. Right, out of all the damn places you go, even though tragic happens at the schools, it's still one of the safest places you can be. So it's not really going to be if it's a gun-free zone or not a gun-free zone. Like I say, you're going to have maniacs, you're going to have people with mental health, and you're going to have murderers and criminals, whether you have gun laws or not have gun laws. What the gun laws are saying, which I agree with, is that we just need to have comments, because we have so many mental health conditions in the country, and a lot of people suffer from some type of mental health issues. And even if you don't have mental health issues, stuff can arise in one's life that can create and cause mental health issues. We need to come up with some strategic way to minimize that. Other countries that don't have guns, like even the police don't carry guns in certain parts of Europe, they don't have many gun deaths, right? They have strict gun laws to where the police even carry batons. So they don't have people getting shot and killed by police officers, right? You got somebody with a knife and you got that risk, but somebody coming at you with a knife is a way lower risk than somebody coming at you with a goddamn AK-47. So if you look at every other country that has strict gun laws, they have way less murders per capita, because a gun can kill so many multiple people, right? A gun can kill multiple people. Rather, if you got a knife or a hatchet or a machete or axe, you got to go one by one. You got a gun, you can sit back and mow down 10 people in less than 10 seconds. So I'm just saying, man, we need to have common sense, or this is gonna keep happening. So I don't know the total answer, but I do know that data shows 100%. This is a fact. This is scientific data that countries that have logical and common sense gun laws have way less murders by guns than way less murders, period. But also, obviously, way less murders. If you put the stricter gun laws, the deaths by gun, the murders by gun are not going to go up. That's illogical, right? What do you think? If we had stricter gun laws, the reason we have so many deaths and people are dying by guns is because of the laws are so strict. No, people are dying by guns right now in our country because the laws are laxed. So it's the opposite of everything you're saying, man. Just use logic. If the problem you thinking, you seeing that it's a problem now, you trying to add to the damn problem. We know the problem in America why we got so many gun deaths and people dying by guns is because we got lax laws. It ain't like if we got strict laws, we could say, hey, we got so many gun deaths because we got some of the laxest gun laws in the world compared to every other country in the world. And we have the most deaths by mass shooting and mass murders by active shooters in the world. And we're up there in the rankings. I'm not going to speak that in the fact, but I know that we in the goddamn top 5, and I'm pretty sure we probably number 1. So, and again, right now in America, we have lax gun laws. So to say that if we had strict gun laws, that's almost to say that because we got strict gun laws right now, that's why all these people are dying from gun homicides. But I don't see, like I say, just the total opposite of your argument. Right now, we got lax gun laws, and right now, I'm reading you multiple stories after story after story after story where people, not even just regular people, this is why we need gun laws, right? I just read a story where an 8th grader got killed by another teenage boy because they got a gun and they went to school and he shot the little girl. I just read another story, 2 kids on a dirt bike. One of the kids gets shot in the neck and dies because somebody had a gun. So each story that I just did, these are not gun-free zones, and these are not because we got strict gun laws. These are because, okay, we know in society is going to be criminals and bad guys are going to get guns. But if you make it harder for bad guys to get guns, it will be less bad guys with guns, right? When I go to a state and I want to get a gun, I used to go to a state where I know it was easy for me to get a gun. If I wanted to get a gun for whatever reason, when I was back in the day and used to be running the streets, I would go to a state like North Carolina. Super easy to get a gun. Anywhere in the South, right? I'm from New York, right? I couldn't get it. It's hard to get a gun in New York. It's not only because it's hard to get one, but it's also expensive as hell to get one, to find a ratchet in New York. So, we would go on 85 and we would go to states where gun laws were laxed or no gun laws, and we would buy all the guns we needed and we would have our guns. This is a long ass time ago. This is back when I was a kid now. But my point being, right? So that's from that experience to let me know that, yeah, if you got lax gun laws, it's going to make the guns go up. Everybody, we all knew that. Hey, go to North Carolina, go get as many guns as you want, right? You didn't even have to, I could buy a gun from anybody in North Carolina. I don't have to have a gun license. I don't have to have nothing. And it's not illegal for them to sell me one. And they got open carry laws. So you can you don't even have to have a license, right? At one point in time in North Carolina, I don't know if it changed, but a few years back, you didn't even have to have a gun license. You could have a gun on you. Police couldn't do nothing as long as the gun wasn't stolen or hot or they have no, the gun was legit. I didn't need no gun license to have it. So my point being is this, man. This makes common sense that if you make the law stricter, the gun violence is going to go down because, yeah, gun violence and people still die from gun violence in New York. But most of those guns come from states that don't have any gun laws, right? So it's still going to keep the gun violence in the state that has the gun laws because you could just go a couple hours down the damn road and pick up what you need, right? But if every state was like, for instance, New York, then there would be nowhere to goddamn go or it would be very hard to go. What I'm saying is it will be a select group of people who are able to obtain them. It will be a select group of people and those people who obtain them would be obtaining them for specific purposes, right? Maybe they want to rob a bank, or maybe they're going to commit a murder, or maybe they're going to commit a robbery. These are criminals, right? So those groups of people will go out their way above and beyond. But a lot of people like me, for instance, it was hard for me to get a gun in NY. I just fuck, I'm not getting no gun. And then I went to another place where it was easy to get a gun. Then I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a gun. People are just that simple. This is not rocket science. People are not that deep. Right? If you go somewhere and it's hard to get a gun, you don't get the gun. go somewhere and it's easy to get a gun, you get a gun, and you don't even think about it. A lot of times people don't want to go above and beyond and out their way to do something. They'll just say, forget that, or that, I'm gonna just go do this. Right? Most people not gonna go above and beyond out their way if it's an inconvenience, too much of an inconvenience. They'll just go do some other. But when you could just go and pick up 8, 9, 10, 12, 30 guns, I'm talking about ARs, 100-round drum clips, banana clips, whatever you want. Like if you, back in the day in North Carolina, you get whatever you want for dirt cheap compared to, right? You can get a handgun in North Carolina for $250 and take it to NY and sell it for $1,500, right? You could take a $180 gun from a state like North Carolina and go to New York and sell it for $1,100. So when you got guns that's that high, that's why it's only going to be a select few people. And I guess I would think, I'm going to look at the data, but I'm pretty sure gun deaths and gun violence went down in NY. So like only the people who are going to be able to afford them are going to be able to get them. Say, just said you can get guns on the street. How's a law going to do anything? Yeah, the law do something easy because like I say, in New York, you get a gun on the street, but you got to have a grip on you, right? If you want to get a gun on the street in New York, you're going to have some paper. You can't just be anybody and you just going to go, right? You need a stimulus check to get a gun in New York. Right? When gun laws are hard and it's hard to get guns in places, you need a certain amount of cash flow to be able to obtain what you need to obtain. When you go to one of them states, them Republican states that have the lax gun laws, you go buy, I could go buy for the one gun I buy or pay for in New York, I can literally go to a state that doesn't have any gun laws and where guns are cheap. For that one gun I can get in New York, I can buy 7 guns in another place, right? So now instead of me just having a gun and getting that one gun, now I got enough guns to give to my whole posse, right? Instead of me having enough money because the guns is super high, right? Instead of me having this $1,500, $1,600 to get this gun I want, now this $1,600 is gonna get me a gun and all my friends a gun. So you just went from one person potentially being a problem or criminal or doing some criminal activity to having a gun to now you got 7, 8 people armed with it. Does that make any sense? That now you see the logic? Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not saying people shouldn't have guns, but I'm just saying we need to have common sense gun laws because too many people don't see logic and don't have no damn logic. And that's why I always have these conversations. And when I have these conversations, I can tell when somebody is illogical, an illogical person, right? Just having a conversation, the person can't follow along and let you know that person is one of the people who don't need the gun, right? So if I go to a gun state that has lax gun laws or no gun laws, I can go get 10 times the amount of guns that I would be able to get into a state where the gun laws is high and it's hard to get access to them. Now, I just went from me having my pistol to me and all, like I say, all my homies got one now. Now you just created the problem is you got 10 times the problem now. You went from 1 to 10 people having it. And then that's how it goes, right? And then that number will double and it double and it double and it keep going. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm gonna do a little story and we're gonna look at the data on states that have strict gun laws or reasonable strict gun laws where, you know, you gotta at least have certain criteria to get one compared to states who are wide open. And then I'll tell you which one. If you go to a country like Canada, Canada barely has any gun deaths. And they're right there on our border. Now, what's the difference between Canada and America? If you go to Canada, they barely have any gun deaths. You go to Mexico, whew, let's talk about Mexico. We know they ain't got no strict gun laws. Now, what's the difference between Canada and Mexico? I wonder what could it be? Yeah, gun laws don't make a difference. Having common sense gun laws, everybody could just be like Mexico, right? If you compare Mexico's gun problem and violence and murder rate from gun violence compared to Canada, you would have to come to the conclusion like, oh yeah, because Canada has stricter gun laws and it's harder for people to get guns, they have certain criteria to follow. There's way less gun crime compared to if you go to goddamn Mexico. But anyway, I'm just gonna end on that point. I think kind of overstating the obvious at this point in time. But I appreciate that interaction, Pinch. You know, this is why I love doing politics as usual, because we ain't got to agree to disagree, man. Everybody gonna have their own views. And I'm not saying mine's is right or yours is wrong. So I don't want you to feel no type of way because I know I got the stage and I got the mic and I'm talking. But I agree. I appreciate you chiming in. This is my view, and then you got your view, and that's where it stands at. I have been in situations where everything I say can go out the damn window because I needed a gun at that time, or I feel like I need a gun, right? So there is, you know, situations where, you know, is my point being is situational. I just don't think everybody needs a gun on them all the damn time. I'm gonna give you a good situation. Like if you out at the bar and you know you're going out to drink, it should be illegal to have a gun. That's one of my points I use. If you know you're going out to get intoxicated, or you're going to be getting intoxicated in a public place where my daughters or my family, my mother, my aunties can wind up being, right? We at a restaurant, we at a bar, and then an altercation happens. If you have that gun in your glove box, you got that gun on your side, you're intoxicated. Obviously, your judgment is going to be impaired. There's a way more likely chance of something tragic to happen because you're intoxicated or high, maybe you're doing drugs and alcohol, and you got the gun on you, than if you were sober and that situation would have died down, or if you didn't have the gun and you was drunk and you took your ass home and passed out and woke up tomorrow and forgot all about it. So there are certain situations where people should not have guns. And again, one of them situations is, like I say, I don't believe people should be able to tote guns when they're drinking. If you're going to be drinking, or if you're going to be doing cocaine or any type of substance like that, that can, impair not only your judgment, but add aggression to you, then you shouldn't have your pistol on you. You can have a pistol. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a gun, but you should have it at home. Because the only point that I hear gun activists, gun rights people say that they have a gun is in case somebody break into my home, I need to protect myself. Well, that's where your gun should be. But when it comes to being out in public, where me and my children got to be at, I don't think your ass should be allowed to carry no gun. And if nobody carried a gun, then we'll fight it out. You may have to deal with somebody with a knife like the dude had to do and hit him in the head with a damn rock, but you don't have to worry about 10 and 12 and 15 people getting mowed down, right? So you got people take their guns everywhere. Like, people are not responsible. People know they're going out to the club. People know they're going out to the bar. They know they're about to get intoxicated. You got a simple argument that could have been handled or forgotten about. And because you got this damn gun, it escalates. And it always does, because everybody's Superman when they know they got a gun on them. Everybody knows that. I know that because I used to carry guns. And I've lost homeboys from gun violence. I've been shot before, right? I've lost a fiance from gun violence. Everybody feels like a superhero when they know they got a gun. But if you took that gun from that same person, they're not the same guy, right? That same person turns rational and reasonable. But you put a gun in that person's hand, and then you have everything escalates. It's never, every time I've dealt in a situation where guns were involved, the situation never de-escalated. It always escalated. And that's the major issue I have with guns being involved. Right? When you're not involved in pistols, it's way more easier to de-escalate. Then let's think about if you dealing with somebody and they know they got a gun on them and you don't have a gun on you, right? The person with the gun turned into the bully and escalate. That's what happened with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, right? That whole situation with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman could have all been avoided if George Zimmerman didn't have that gun on him. Because Trayvon Martin whooped his ass and he would have just went home with an ass whooping, or there's a good chance that George Zimmerman wouldn't even approach Trayvon Martin. And the only reason he followed him and did that was because he knew he had a gun. So this is all these type of different scenarios, and having a gun should be situational. I just don't see the point of having it out in the goddamn street. If you need it at home to protect you and your family and keep you safe, do that. But don't bring it out around me and my damn family to jeopardize us, family's life in somebody else's hand who might or might not have a gun and could stop this shooter or not stop this shooter, right? It's a very highly unlikely chance that if there's not a gun involved in the situation that I'm going to die or my kids will die from a gunshot. That's all I'm saying, B. Yeah, alcohol and guns don't mix, but the problem is you don't have no gun laws that's going to stop that, right? We let people have guns, we let people have open carry, and the stipulations are pretty lax. There's no definitive hey man, you need to keep if you get pulled over, like when you drinking and driving, for instance, you get pulled over, you're drinking and driving, you know your ass going to jail, right? If you wind up having a gun on you and you intoxicated, your ass should go to jail. Probably a minimum it should be a harsh ass penalty too, right? You want to take the chances of walk around intoxicated and not in your right state of mind, and you want to carry your damn gun, then if you get caught doing it, I mean, you got the right to do it. Everybody got the right to break the law, but if you get caught doing it, then your ass should get sent up the road. That long trip, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a weak. Some crimes though are slaps on the wrist, so people don't give a damn about doing it, right? That's the point about it. So having common sense gun laws, meaning putting gun laws in place that's going to deter people, make you think twice. For instance, before you get in your car and you drink and drive, some people still do it, but way less people do it now that they tightened up on the drinking and driving laws in the country. Remember, drinking and driving was a regular thing. Everybody did it. I did it a few times when I was younger back in the day, before, all the clicking and ticketing, all the drinking and driving got they cracked down on it for, you know, kids dying and school buses getting hit. But at one point, drinking and driving was a regular thing. It was against the law, but you know, you get caught for drinking and driving before they cracked down on it. It was a slap on the wrist. You going to pay a fine. You know what I mean? It wasn't no jail time or you losing your license. It was just like a ticket. You was fine. It was a civil matter. It wasn't criminal, right? But now that they tighten up the drinking and driving laws in the country, you think twice before you get in you get a designated driver, right? You think twice before you get in your damn car. And if you do get in your car, you know the risk. So most people who got common sense don't drive. Even the hardest gangsters I know in the streets, they keep somebody with them sober, right? They always have a driver. I used to always have a driver also. If I know I'm going out and I'm gonna be drinking, right? Because you don't want to take the risk, especially if you in some illegal type, doing some illegal type. You don't want to take the risk of driving and drinking. So even criminals get designated drivers. Mostly the criminals will get it. Smart criminal, right? You get it. If you're going on a trip to go do something that's, let's say, illicit or illegal, and you know you might be partying or you're going to be drinking, you're going to have a designated driver with you. Because you know better than to get behind that goddamn, because it's going to up the risk of something dumb happening. Right? You know better than to get behind that goddamn wheel while you drinking. But nobody equates that then, you know, better than to have that goddamn gun on your hip or in your car while you drinking. Right? And that's the place we need to get to, I think, right, in this country. I think that's the place. If we could get to that place where, I'm not saying people can't have guns, but just to make people think twice, right? Think twice. Like if you from New York, like where I'm from, you think twice about having a gun. They give you like you get 5 years of bullet. You get caught with a pistol, you 5 years of bullet. Right? Everybody think twice about having a gun where I'm from. When you start talking about 5 years of bullet for having something you're not supposed to have, yeah, you think that I know personally is going to deter you because it did me. I'm not playing no games. But I think, you know, so common sense gun laws is cool. I'm not in that boat where I'm trying to take everybody guns. I don't think nobody should have a gun. I'm just trying to find that, just need to find that soft spot, man. Something that we can toe the line and agree on, like me and you doing right now. But why can't they do it, right? Why can't Republicans, the people who, that's how you know the people who make the laws are unstable and they got mental health conditions, because they can't do what me and you just did. We can't have a debate and a conversation and say, well, okay, I can come to your side and say, well, okay, I can understand. I don't agree with taking everybody guns and just, you know, dropping all gun rights. And then you can say, well, drinking and having a gun or being intoxicated and not being your right, I could agree with that. Boom, that's a gun law right there we could come up with. That's something you could put. We could, if we were lawmakers, we could co-sponsor a bill and bring that to the floor and get that done. But they can't even do that. So it's like I don't know, man. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, so I guess that's why I'm chilling. It's easy for me, Pinch. Right? I'm not Republican or Democrat, bro. I don't claim none of them. Right? I got a problem with Joe Biden just as much as I had with Donald Trump. I got a problem with Nancy Pelosi just as much as I had with goddamn Mitch McConnell. I got a problem with McCarthy just as much as I got with Chuck Schumer. Think of shit from a logical perspective. And then I say, well, you know what I mean? Because at this point, we got to do something. They just, you know, everybody can't just jump on their teams and then you want to be gridlocked on your side of the field. Ain't nobody moving the ball. The game is just stagnant. At this point, we got to do something because is getting out of hand and is getting out of control. And that's just my opinion. She say, Eco say, Incognito say, shouldn't have to always go to jail though for kicking the ass of someone that deserves it. But all the wannabe tough folks love filing them charges. Yeah, I don't, and the ass whooping ain't nothing, man. You know what I mean? The ass whooping ain't never hurt nobody. That's what they say. You get your ass whooping, you live to fight another day. But you pull out that damn gun and you gone. You make that shit to where it's gonna really have some consequences. Also, I'm saying is you want to get people to think about it. Like, hey, okay, let me think about this. I take this damn gun with me. Not even if I take this gun with me and I shoot. I'm going out tonight to, you know, party a little bit, get drunk, be with my homies, whatever. But I'm going to take I don't feel comfortable if I have my gun. I'd rather be judged by 12 than buried by 6. I only feel comfortable if I have this gun on me, right? You're going to think twice if it's like, damn, not if I kill somebody or use the gun, but if I get caught with this they might give me 5 years. If I get caught with it while I'm intoxicated, what I'm saying. If I get caught with this while I'm got, you know, just like the alcohol limit for driving, you put an alcohol limit for having possession of your firearm. I'm not saying that if you drink, you can't have a firearm. I'm just saying If you're drinking, you shouldn't have your firearm with you, right? If you in your house, that's a different story. But if you out in the public square meaning where it can start affecting me and my kids and the rest of us out here in the public square, them and they kids, if you're out in the public square, then you should be held liable and accountable for your actions. Good night. Much love to you, Pinch. I appreciate you coming through. And I also appreciate you being reasonable, homie, right? Like I say, man, we don't have to agree to disagree. We can agree to agree. Maybe you wouldn't go as far as me, but maybe we could concede and say, okay, if you could do the no drugs and no alcohol intoxication, because we know that affects your, you being coherent. If you could agree with that, I'm good. That's one of my major. I think that'll cut down a lot, right? That'd probably cut down more than 15% of the problem. Probably a good quarter of the problem comes from being impaired. It might be somewhere between 15 to 25% of the problem is cut down, right?